All right, we're here. It's the Pod James Pod podcast. It's like we're doing it. We're doing it again.
We're
It's
doing it.
like it's it. This is the show. It's back. It's like
We're, we're back on. Uh, we, I mean, yeah, we're back,
we're
and
back, baby. I mean, we've been doing the show. It's not like it's gone away. It's been a
yeah,
little different here the past couple of months, and this is the way the show's supposed to be. We're you and I, you, Aaron Nix, and me, Carlin Trammell. We're doing this James Pod podcast. It's a show all about the James Bond movies. We get together, and from minute one to however long we run, all we do is we just talk and
yeah.
focus and hone in and dissect and rip apart and put back together the James Bond movies.
Think of this as like the best reboot that you'll see ever, or listen to rather. Well, I mean, you could watch our podcast. I mean,
It
we've talked about
is.
that before.
We have talked about it before. I mean, I feel like what's going to happen someday because this is the best podcast that I think exists.
Ever.
Yes, we are recording this in an audio format.
Hmm.
That is true. I mean, you and I, we set out to do an audio podcast.
But who's to say that years down the road, once our podcast has had time to digest with people, that a filmmaker won't come out and make uh, I guess an animated version of our podcast or a live action version of our podcast. I mean, I fully suspect it will happen.
Yeah, I think it's happening now. I think there's high schoolers in their like parents' basement. They're right now.
Uh,
They're doing computer renderings of us. You,
Writing
me.
scripts.
They're not. Well, they're not writing scripts. There's no script to write. I mean, they're just taking this
Okay.
audio and they are
Maybe they're
um,
storyboarding it. Like
they're
they're
storyboarding.
storyboarding. Yeah.
Yes, they're
Okay.
storyboarding it out. They're figuring out at what point when we talk about something. So when we talk about, say, we get into the whole Alabama Dog U, what's going on with that,
Let
then
me ask you a
they
question.
storyboard something with our other co-host, Alabama Dog.
Because I know these teenagers are working hard, and I'm sure they would appreciate some input from us. The origin of their soon to be mega billion-dollar movie. Who would play you in said movie?
Who would play me? I mean, they're
Yeah.
animating me. They're creating a life, like they're creating a computer model of me. Why
Okay.
why
So
would someone else play me?
okay. So all right. So you're thinking that this is something similar to, say, Beowulf or Tintin or something like that.
Oh well, I mean, I haven't gotten that request for like, hey, dear, dear Mr. Trammell, could you please come meet me in my basement? And then they have like enclosed like green dots that I put on my
Yeah.
face, and I have to like go in and get scanned or something. That hasn't happened yet. Uh, I don't know if it's gonna be like motion capture or if they are actually like just doing it all themselves.
Okay. Well, I mean, say they're doing it years from now. What actor would you want to portray you as the motion capture actor?
Again, I don't understand this question. It's going to be me. There is no one else who could be me but me. Now, as far as you, who should be you? Let's see. It's got to be somebody,
I'm,
that when I look at them, I don't want to punch them in the face.
I think,
That's what I'm looking for with whoever they do with you.
I mean, I'm just gonna say this.
Uh,
I think Pierce Brosnan would play a great me. Just the motion capture the portion.
so you're saying that we should look at like which
Not
Bond
not
actor.
necessarily. It just so happens that I think he's a good Bond, or I think he's a good actor to play me, to do the motion capture.
Okay, all right.
Um,
I have a
it
suggestion.
just so happens that he's a Bond.
I think it's me, but I'm wearing a Sean Connery mask.
Uh, the Sean Connery mask. Well, you better. I mean, somebody might come behind you and strangle you, though.
That's a risk I'm willing to take.
Okay, okay. Hopefully, is it a little bit more realistic? Is it like a Mission Impossible mask?
Well, well, when it's me wearing the mask, it looks just like Sean Connery. But as soon as I die and I fall to the ground, it's like the worst Halloween mask you could possibly ever imagine.
You're turned slightly away from the camera, and it's very pale. It doesn't even match your skin color. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay, okay. I like it. I like it. That is a bold choice. So, well, okay. Well, hang on here. Now I'm really jealous because now you're in the studio. You got the green screens around you. You got the green dots, and you're looking across the table to Pierce Brosnan.
Uh
So
huh.
I'm not even there. So you get to act with Pierce Brosnan.
Right, because you think that Pierce Brosnan's going to come in and do the
Uh-huh.
motion capture,
Yeah,
but
for me.
for you, but with your voice, they're taking the audio from these
Yeah, they would
podcasts.
obviously they would just use these episodes
I don't
for
see why they would redo it. There's no point in
no
that.
no they wouldn't redo it.
Because
But
are these episodes in your mind as you think back, are they perfect? I mean, yeah.
I mean, I think our iTunes reviews prove that. They prove that they're perfect, except for
Well, I
Big
think
Daddy Audio.
well, I think they prove they're perfect, but that's not what's really going to prove they're perfect. Only one thing will, and that is history. History will prove they're perfect.
Well, I mean, you got to think about what they're being compared to. I mean, are they being compared to, say, Bames Jondine?
Oh, I just have one thing to say to you. Listen, Bames Jonding.
And Bames Jondine.
Bames Jonding. We
I mean,
have
if that's the case, then it's not even like it's like we're at 100 and they're at 0 or below. I mean, that's just if that's what people are comparing it to, then yeah, this is perfect. It's perfect.
Well, I mean, and you can't look at iTunes reviews because we have, let's see, last count we have like 10 reviews. Is that right on
Uh,
iTunes, or is
yeah.
that might be a low end exaggeration. It could be.
It may be more around the 4-ish range.
I think there's one on the Canada store.
Hey, that is might be my favorite review ever.
So I don't want to discount any of our Canadian listeners at
Absolutely.
all.
No,
Well, okay, say any. I mean, there's some I might want to discount,
we are
but
we are an international podcast. We're doing it about James Bond. Even though you in previous episodes you got upset that we're in America. We're doing the podcast only in America, and we shouldn't refer to the
no, I was only talking
dodgeball
about
rules.
dodgeball rules. I wasn't talking
Eh,
about. I was getting upset about I mean, yes, we're talking about James Bond. He travels across the world and he
it just
interacts
seemed
with
like
different.
you didn't really respect Britain. So I mean, it's kind of surprises me that you're giving all this respect to Canada.
How are you possibly saying I didn't respect Britain?
I
I was
mean,
talking about the dodgeball rules that we're
in,
trying to follow. When you have a team and you're assembling a team
yeah,
together,
yeah,
I was looking at the U.S. rules because where are you located? You're located in Nebraska. Nebraska is in
uh-huh.
what country?
The U.S. of A.
And I am in Florida, and Florida is in what country?
Florida is in its own country.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a valid point. But that said, if my dodgeball team here in Florida and your dodgeball team in Nebraska meet up, we're not in the UK. We're playing by the US rules.
So all of your teams living down in Florida, and all of my teams living over in Nebraska.
Yeah, and we meet up at different places. We meet up in like Alabama
I mean, yeah, I
for a
was a little
game
disappointed
or
last month you didn't bring up your team for our scheduled meet. I mean, it was a perfect opportunity. You came all this way. You didn't bring the bus full of guys.
yeah, well, I wasn't sure. Look. I mean, we're talking about how we're back, we're doing the show. I don't want to harp on the past, Like I don't want to focus on the past. Yes, we did a show where we got upset. Yes, there was a point in time where we split up. Yes, we did a show where we got together in person and
It's fun.
we
It's fun.
reconciled. It's all fun, but that's not what I want to do. I don't want to harp on the past. I don't want to focus on the past. I want to look ahead.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
But yeah, you're right. You're right. I didn't bring the team. I wasn't sure how you would react to my showing up anyway, and I didn't want. That's a lot.
It
That's a
was
lot to
risky.
bring down. Bring down me. I got to bring down 10
Yeah.
players. At that
Yeah.
point, I need to bring QK with me. A couple of the players kind of messy. Kevin Hart, the janitor's got to come.
Not the comedian.
Not the comedian,
Yeah.
the janitor,
Yeah,
different
I see.
guy.
I see. If you had brought your team up to Nebraska, and you all of you had showed up on my doorstep, I probably would have been a little intimidated. I might feel threatened. I might have shut the door on you and then called my team over, and we might have had a good old fashioned rumble there on the street.
Uh huh.
Um, I could have gone out in my garage and grabbed some dodgeballs. It could have happened right there. I mean that would have been a great storyline for the movie.
I'm anticipating that's essentially what Bond 24 will be about. I
Okay.
don't have a real good sense. Like I'm not personal friends with Sam Mendes
Well, we did
and
write
his
the
team.
letter.
We have written a letter to him with some requests,
Uh-huh.
but I don't have those connections. I don't have my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the Bond 24 production offices. But what you just said, that all sounds perfectly possible.
But do you think the filmmakers who are going to make James Pod, the movie, do you think they'll deviate from the story at all? I mean, you always see movies, they take the source material, whether it's a novel or a comic or whatever, and they'll change things up. Do you think they'll get to this point and they're like, man, this really needs some more conflict. This is the climax, leading into maybe the second half of the saga.
Uh huh.
Do you think they'll deviate and kind of have some artistic interpretation?
So they would, boy. I hope not, because I mean, like I said, we
It's
got it,
perfect.
we got it perfect.
Yeah.
I think all that's going to do is just aggravate future fans, or all the fans we have now who are going to continue to be fans. Those
Right.
people, when they go to watch the movie or the series or whatever
Uh,
these kids are putting together, they're just going to be disappointed. It's going to
right.
be
Right now, it's sitting at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and if they do that, it's going to go down probably to 99%.
Yeah, it would go down. There'd be that one, that one like contingent of people who are like,
It's that
I really just, like this is great, but they just made that change in the 15th episode where they were
yeah.
still fighting, they were still doing dodgeball, they were whatever the kids make the change to,
Well,
and
that 1%. Who would give it that bad review, right?
oh, it's gonna be James Jonding.
Maybe they'll come around and maybe they'll finally realize that, hey guys, we just can't compete with the Pod James Pod podcast. Maybe
Right.
we should just stop podcasting. And that would be the best case scenario if they just stopped even trying. Because really, we're the only James Bond podcast that gets into the nitty gritty of the movies
We
and
just
of each character in the background and
It's like we're
directing.
sucking the marrow right out of the bone of these movies.
We're just sucking it out. We're just sucking it out.
Oh my goodness, that's what we do. That's what we do on
We
this
go
show.
we go scene by scene, line by line.
You know, and let me. I think this is a good transition to something else I want to bring up. And again, I don't want to harp on the past. I don't even want to bring up the past. But that said, last month on the show, you and I, we got together in person. We did a game of 007 Seen It. 007 Seen It.
Yeah, it was great.
And we creamed that game. Like we owned that game. I'm not even gonna bring up who won. I did, but I'm not gonna bring it up.
Listen. I mean, do you really expect? Yeah, okay.
It
Okay.
doesn't matter that
We're
I
just
won.
gonna leave it.
I'm not gonna bring that
we
up that I
dominated
won. You
because we're
also,
experts.
yeah, because we're experts. Exactly. That's
We're
what. Oh,
experts.
it's like you know where I'm going. We are experts, and you're talking about all this stuff, and you're just like, we're the greatest podcast. We know everything about the movies. We creamed 007,
Yeah.
Seen It. Here's what I think we should.
Listen. When I go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead, because I want to see what else. 'Cause
When I,
you
when
might-
I when I when I first brought up 017 in episode 001, I had mentioned how it was possibly the hardest game I've ever played. And that to be an expert, you had to get like a 90 or 95%. And I hadn't played the game since like 2006 when it first came out or whatever. Um, but looking back last month when we played it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and at what level we were at, I think when I played it in 2006 and I thought it was so hard, it was too difficult. I think I was at a James Bonding level of James Bond knowledge.
Uh-huh.
Whereas now I'm at
You're
a Pod James Pod level.
exactly. Yeah. And you know why? Because you've grown and you've paired. You've partnered yourself with two co-hosts that have helped you rise above who you were
Challenge me.
to
Yeah.
become who you are. And that's what you've done for me. That's what Alabama Dog's done for me. That's what we've done for, well, actually, we haven't done that for Alabama Dog because he's already so awesome.
He's very awesome.
He's really, actually, really, it's mostly him. He
Have you
deserves most
have
of the
you
credit.
have you seen what he's been doing lately? He's so into James Bond. You may have seen this if you follow Bama Dog on Twitter or on
At
our blog.
at
At
Bama_dog.
Yeah. So he has a new hobby. If you haven't seen this, he has taken his new hobby is skydiving. He's he's so into James Bond culture that he wants to do research about what it's like to skydive. And so he's been doing that about 8 times a week. That
Yeah.
may be a low end exaggeration, but it's around 8 times a week.
Uh-huh. 8 times a week.
Um, and I asked him, oh, damn, dog, why do you keep skydiving
Uh-huh.
as a hobby? And he says there are very few challenges left in life for him. One of the challenges at first was our podcast, the Pod James Pod podcast, but
Right.
we
And
have
he, I
we
mean,
have
oh,
exceeded all
yeah,
expectations,
exactly.
and so he's looking for new extreme challenges. So I applaud Alabama Dog rising above literally everybody else.
Yes, and that's after having gotten his black belt.
Exactly. I completely forgot about his black belt.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was so inspired by You Only Live Twice that he went out and got his black.
Yeah, I mean, he worked hard after You Only Live Twice. That episode, we didn't do it that long ago, and he got a black belt from that time to just a couple weeks ago, and when he puts his mind to something, he does it. I mean, if you were to ask, hey, what does Alabama Dog do? I mean, we could list out so many things.
Yeah.
List out so many things.
I
But
mean,
that said,
he's an expert.
he is such an inspiration. We are so awesome, such experts, because all we're doing is focusing on these movies. I think that we should make ourselves a goal. And I
Okay.
hope you don't think this is too outlandish of a goal, but I would
High
like
level?
It's a
High
high
level?
level goal. It
Okay.
is, and it's something that I would. I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up now here on the podcast for the first time, and I'm hoping that you don't think it's too crazy of an idea. But I think you, myself, and Alabama Dog should co-author a book.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I've been dreaming about this.
Yeah, you think
Um,
so? Because
nothing.
who if we don't, who will? I mean, you can. Yeah, there's tons of James Bond books out there. Blah blah blah. Are any of them any good?
Roger Moore's met some,
I
written
mean,
some. I mean,
what does he know about James Bond?
no, he hasn't explored every facet of the franchise
How
like
did
we
he
have.
do in Seen It? Did Roger Moore beat Seen It? No.
And I was initially thinking, wouldn't it be great if we were in the like Oprah's book club? But then I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if we're in the Bama Dog book club? That
I-
is
Oh my
talk
goodness!
about some lofty goals.
I don't even know if that's possible. I mean, you're a dreamer, man. You're a dreamer.
I mean, if he co-authors it, maybe if he does the forward,
I hope he does.
and I imagine the forward would simply be his paw print, and that's everything you
That
need
is all it needs. I mean, it doesn't really need. What more do you need? It's just his. It's like his stamp of approval.
I mean, it's pre-autographed, so its value is. I mean, you put it on eBay, and eBay wouldn't even be able to register how much it's worth. That's how much. That's how valuable it is.
Yeah. Who now? So while we're on the book, because I know that we probably ought to start talking about the movie because that's what we do. That's how we operate on this show. But so this book, we're looking at it being, we're experts. We're going to talk. We're going to write about James Bond. But I think we should start talking about the book. I mean, maybe let's make that sort of something we do every episode. We could share our progress. We could share the journey of us writing this book together. And I think the place where you start is the cover. What kind of cover would we have in
Yeah.
this book?
Well, you may remember I have some experience being on a cover of a book. I remember I had the review, the quote on the book Roger Moore's Cuban Mustache, written by Hat Guy.
Right, that's right. That's right. So you
And
have some experience there with some covers.
yeah, some experience. Which makes me an expert. Um, so I mean, that's a great place to start. I mean, Hat Guy, Hat Guy, hats off to you, Hat Guy, for being a good author. I thought it was a great book, but when it comes to talking about our book, it's just there's not going to be any comparison.
No, no. Well, let's then make our goal for the next episode to come back with some ideas for the cover, and then we'll just proceed down this book
Maybe
journey.
titles, maybe
Some
titles.
titles. Oh yeah, some titles. I mean,
I
if
mean, we
we're
should
not
come up
going
with a
to
title
make it,
before we write the book.
well, if it's not going to be just Pod James Pod. I mean, if it's not going to be just our podcast. I mean, don't you think that's like what we should do? Is name it after ourselves, because then it has that immediate tie-in
The movie, yeah,
to
yeah,
us. And the eventual movie that those
yeah,
kids in high school are gonna do.
yeah. People, I mean, if people would see the movie and um, they may listen to the show, but they also, some people still like to read.
Yeah, they want to
They
read the
would
book.
probably, yeah, the first thing they would search, and we're thinking about Google results now, would be Pod James Pod book,
Uh huh.
and maybe that would be the title of it, the
There you
Pod
go.
James Pod book.
There you go. All right. Perfect.
All right, settled.
So it's episode 0015, and it's time to start talking about the movie. For this time, we decided to discuss Sean Connery's second film, From Russia with Love. And I feel
Right.
like we've already really kind of we've broken ground on this already. I talked about the opening sequence a little bit with the guy who's walking around wearing a Sean Connery version of James Bond mask. He gets strangled
Yeah,
for
I love that opening. I love that opening
it's
scene.
really odd though. It's like it'd
It's
be
very
like I know you and Sailor Sam don't always get along, but it'd be kind of like if you made somebody that dress up as Sailor Sam so that you could go beat them up. Like, I mean, it's weird. It's a
Is
weird
that?
thing. Like, why would you dress somebody up as
It sounds like something you've done with QK.
no, no.
No?
I don't have anyone dress up as QK. I just
I mean, I remember the Octopussy episode. You were yelling at her. Are you sure she wasn't dressed up?
look. We're not looking back. We're moving ahead. We're looking
Okay,
forward.
we're moving ahead.
We're
Okay,
moving
all
ahead.
right.
We're not talking about the
That's why
past.
we're talking about From Russia with Love from 1963,
Yep. Yep.
and I love the opening scene because it's silent. It's not a high octane action driven scene. It's Bond like being a spy, and he's just thrown into this like maze with the bushes and everything. We don't really know what's going on, but it's still, I don't know. I still really get into it, and he's trying to be a sleuth and sneak around, and then when he's killed in the mass ball, it's just like, whoa, my world is like, my bubble just bursted. I like it.
Yeah, I didn't really like it.
You like it?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I kind of think it's silly.
It's different. I like it because it's different. It's just something you don't really see in many other Bond movies.
Yeah, I think it's too early for it though. I think it's the second movie, and it's like, hey, here's our lead character, except he's a guy wearing a mask. I
I
don't know.
mean, it's exactly it's the second movie. I mean, things haven't really been established all that much. Doctor No did some things, but Doctor No was still very primitive in some of the James Bond cliches.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like that From Russia of Love was still experimenting with some things,
Okay.
especially with its theme music and the opening, the credit sequence. What did you think of that?
Oh, yeah. I think what we see, and we've already talked about both Doctor No and Goldfinger, and I think what we see here is definitely the middle of this transition into what James Bond becomes with Goldfinger, and that here's the formula, here are the things that are in every movie, and we see this as still this like evolving franchise. It's closer to what every movie has than Doctor No was, but it's not. It's still like this proto state, and so it's interesting. But to me, it's not as interesting as Doctor
Yeah.
No was. It's not as raw. It's not as unfinished. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more polished, which almost takes
Yeah.
away some of the because it's not all the way there yet. It takes away some of the interestingness of it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you're right. It's I mean we get the the typical James Bond music with the fanfare, but there's not it's not a song that's written specifically for From Russia with Love by an artist with a singer, and
Right.
it's
They
not.
play that
Yeah.
later in the movie, but not for the opening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then and the plot is pretty. It's almost one of those too simple of a plot for a 2-hour movie. It's like, hey, there's a girl, and we need to get her out, but there might be a trap, and here's a briefcase, and fight some people, and we're gonna pad it out with some other stuff too. And I
Well,
just,
it's too simple of a plot because there's not really any villain. Like the villain is really just a henchman that's like kind of
yeah,
gone through.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
It, it,
it's like From Russia of Love is a it's just like a tease, a test leading up to future Spectre films.
which doesn't even happen in the next movie, which is
Exactly, exactly. It's like, oh, great, this great From Russia of Love. We're gonna lead off, at the ending credits. James Bond will be back in Goldfinger, but then we don't even see Blofeld or anything like that.
sort of like how things went with Quantum of Solace. Let's establish
I
this
knew you were gonna
whole
bring it up.
let's
I knew you were
establish
gonna.
this whole quantum thing, and then in the next movie in Skyfall, let's not have it show up.
But isn't that like, just kind of makes sense? Goldfinger, the revered Goldfinger movie, considered most everybody's favorite Bond movie. It doesn't have anything to do with From Russia of Love, and same thing with Skyfall. Skyfall's great, probably because it didn't have anything to do with Quantum.
Yeah, I guess
Just,
Skyfall is
just
great. We haven't talked about that to have established it's great or not. We haven't made that decision yet.
what was great in Skyfall?
Oh my goodness, is that what we're talking about?
It
Are we
was
just skipping to Skyfall now?
What was great in Skyfall was that it started out in a really great location, and I'm talking about Istanbul.
Mm-hmm.
And Istanbul is it's known as Ian Fleming's one of his favorite locations.
Mm-hmm.
And Skyfall's one of three movies that took place in Istanbul,
Mm-hmm.
uh, with the other two being The World's Not Enough, which stole its plot from The Dark Knight Rises,
That's right.
and From Russia with Love. And I mean, of course, Bond and Skyfall goes to the new mosque, where From Russia of Love it takes place a lot at the Hagia Sophia mosque. But I think there's a lot of parallels with what Bond's going through, and I just think, it's great that From Russia of Love uh, used some Skyfall influence.
Yeah, from Rush with Luck. Man, you are such an
Exactly.
expert. You are an
I mean,
expert.
we're looking
That is
we're
a chapter
we're
in the book
looking
right there.
we're looking
Transcribe
into
that
the
in the
future.
book. Whew.
I mean, there really, there's like a whole Skyfall chapter in the book.
Can you guess what my favorite line or bit or little nugget of this movie is?
I don't know. Tell me.
There is a scene when they're listening to Bond back in the UK. M's there, and there are a bunch of people there listening. And Bond says, "Once
Is
when I
this is
was
this in Skyfall
no,
when they're in
we're back to
Istanbul
From Russia
and
with
M's listening?
we're back
Okay,
to
okay,
From Russia with Love.
okay.
Once when I was with M in Tokyo. ... And I loved that because it's this reference to like this history that he and M have, and they maybe at some point M was going on missions, M was training him. I just it's just one little line, but it just gave that relationship so much more power, and
You love that line.
I do love it. I think that's my favorite little bit of this movie because
That should make
it
it into the book.
because I think most of the movies don't really give you a little sense of character and history. It's just because it becomes very formulaic. It's Bond throws the hat on the hat rack, and he and Moneypenny flirt, and they move on. There's no like sense of real history. It's just
Uh-huh.
the same thing. But this little line is like, oh, once when I was with him in Tokyo. Ooh, what is that? Like, and I kind of don't want to know. I just like that there was something there, and it's like left up to my imagination what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. I'm glad you picked up on it.
Okay.
I can't say I did. Um, but now that you reference it, I agree. It's a great line.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great line.
It is a great line. Well, let's talk about the girl. There's not really much of a villain to talk about, but let's talk about the girl we have in this. In this movie, we have Daniela Bianchi. Am I saying that right? Do you think? I mean, well,
Um,
of course I am. I'm the expert. If
Daniela Bianchi, that's the only way to pronounce it.
I mean, if she had been saying it different, she needs to change to the way I
Tatiana.
said it. She's
Tatiana.
playing Tatiana Romanova. She's all right. She's very pretty, very attractive. I don't think she's not as strong of a character as other Bond girls. She doesn't do a whole lot. She's very she's just sort of falls in love with Bond and then just kind of fawns
She's a
all over
tool.
him. She's a tool.
She's a tool.
She's not really her own character. And so from that standpoint, I wouldn't consider her my favorite, but yeah, other than just that she's very attractive. Meh.
Hmm. Yeah, no. She was very utilitarian. I mean, she was attractive. She fulfilled everything that a Bond girl really needs. But she doesn't really stand out.
Yeah.
Not to me, not to anything.
Yeah.
If anything, I think her relationship with number three was that left some like serious questions because number three was obviously hitting on her. So I was like, oh, is there a relationship between these two women? Is there a history there? Um,
Do you think they
that
were in
was
Tokyo as well?
they might have been in Tokyo.
The briefcase. Can we talk about the briefcase real quick too? Because that to
Oh
me
yeah,
was
Q.
was
Great.
well, this is the first appearance of Desmond Llewellyn as Q, and
Uh-huh.
do they even call him Q in this, or was he still just
I don't think
quartermaster?
I don't think his name's ever referenced in the film.
He shows up with this briefcase, and it's there's about a 20-minute scene where Q is explaining the briefcase to Bond, and he's like, "Watch this! You can turn this, and it's got coins, and it's got a knife, and it's got a magnet." And it's like,
Hmm.
"Okay, we get it's this magic briefcase. So let's move on." And then
It's really setting the stage for gadgets
it
for every other Bond movie.
it is, but then what I would have rather have seen is because there's so many things tied in with this briefcase that it would have been used throughout the movie. So, oh, I need coins. I pull
Uh-huh.
out the coins. Oh, I need a knife. In a scene 10 minutes later. Okay, now I'll use the knife. Okay, I need the magnet, gas canister thing. 30 minutes later, then I use that. And it's like he used all of it in like the span of 2 minutes.
Having almost every single facet of the briefcase used at the very end of the fight was like, it was almost too coincidental that like, oh, I need a knife right here in this, I'm in a chokehold. Oh, the gas is perfect for the situation. It's like that briefcase was built purely for Grant, the assassin,
Yeah, yeah.
and nobody else. Like Q just knew. I know that's typical with most gadgets. Like they're only used in very specific situations. But in that case, it was a little bit too much. It was everything at once.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming to the end of really having delved into From Russia with Love. I think we've kind of picked it apart.
We've covered almost everything.
There's not much more to say. So it's time to talk about well, what we haven't done. What we haven't done is talk about our dodgeball teams. So is there anybody from this movie? It's your turn to go first.
I mean, just the recap with everybody. I mean, if you're new to our podcast, because I mean, this is sort of our reboot. We've decided to draft characters from all the Bond movies we've seen thus far in the podcast and put them on our dodgeball teams.
Yep.
So right now we're sitting at 10 players each. So each episode we get to choose one player and or swap somebody out if we
If we
like
so
somebody from the
choose.
movie,
If we so choose.
if we so choose. So do you is this a movie where you saw somebody worth swapping
Well, I
out
believe
player?
it's your turn to go first.
Oh, my
Based on,
turn.
yeah. So
You
it's
know, from watching it, I think there is a character that I really could use,
okay.
and it's the cameraman, the cameraman who filmed James Bond and Tatiana's making
Oh,
love,
yes.
yeah, in the hotel. That,
Which, by the way, that is a for a 1960 is it 63.
that is out there,
That is a pretty risque scene because
and it
I
and it
know I know like I've got the Blu-rays and
the
I was
blue.
surprised at how like crisp and clear certain things were in that scene. I was like, whoa, this is not something I'm gonna be necessarily having the kids sitting here watching with me.
And the filming of that scene wasn't even explained until the very end of the movie. Because the whole time we're like, whoa, why were they filming that? And it's not even it's like a one guy or two guys and a giant camera. Anyways, I think I could really use them on my team to like most sports teams, they go back, coaches go back and look at the film.
Oh, this is brilliant.
So I really need a cameraman to film my team so I can analyze
Uh huh.
and be a better coach.
You just
And
make sure he has the right film when he's doing the playback there, because otherwise it's gonna get really awkward. We, all right, everybody, let's circle around. Let's get that projected up there.
well,
The thing goes up there, and it's like,
well, let's just
whoa.
let's look at my team. Let's look at my team. The only player that would have a problem with that would be Xenia Onatop, and even then, I think Xenia Onatop is a player that kind of swings both ways. I'm just saying that right now.
Hey, I could see William Lundigan kind of getting embarrassed, but
He's old school.
he's a
He's old
classy
school.
guy. He's a classy guy.
He might walk out of the room and say, "Give me the notes later." Um, with that, because William Lundigan he's a little bit questionable about this situation with my cameraman, I'm gonna have to let William Lundigan go.
Okay, all right. So William Lundigan is off your team. You're adding camera guy,
Willie, yeah,
Willie.
cameraman from Russia with Love.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a change I'd like to make as well, just to set things back the way I want them. Jimmy Bond is gone and Odd Job is back.
Odd Job is back.
Yeah, yeah. We never said it had to be from that movie.
No, you're
Just
right. You're right.
so
Okay.
Odd Job back on the team, and
Odd
Jimmy
Job is back.
Bond is yeah. Just I'm just kind of undoing
Sure,
that.
you sure about that?
Yeah, I'm just undoing that whole mistake. That was a mistake, and I want to just move forward from now on, and no, not look back. So that's gone. That's taken care of. Okay, so everything's back. We got our dodgeball team set, and so let's move on to talking about where we place these in the hierarchy of films. We like to we don't rank these movies. We don't say, oh, this is a number 15 of 23. We just put them in sort of a top tier, a middle tier, or a bottom tier. Aaron, where do you place this movie?
This is a tough one. This is a tough one for me. I'm gonna have to put it in the middle. It's a solid middle movie for me. It's I like a lot of things about the movie. I like Sean Connery. I like some of the story elements, but it's like we talked about. It just doesn't seem like a very complete movie, and there's a lot of weird things about it. Like there's the theme music is played throughout the movie in the most boring parts. He'll be walking around his hotel and will da 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 da. I mean, he's just like walking from the room to room, and it's just it's very strange. That being said, it's hard for me to think Sean Connery as a bottom film, so this is in the middle for me.
Middle for me, boat makeout scene, yes.
Absolutely yes,
All
great
right.
boat makeout scene, and
Yeah.
they're being filmed. but not by my guy. They're being filmed by some tourists. Who knows? It might have been my guy.
It could have been.
I don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Aaron, next month on the show, I think in honor of our new looking forward policy and not looking back, we're not about yesterday, we're about tomorrow. Tomorrow never dies. That's what we're doing.
Never dies. Never.
Never does. Never dies. Tomorrow never dies is what we're doing next month on 0016 of the podcast. It was great to be back.
It's great. It's great. I hope you fans loved it as much as we did because it feels good. It feels good to show our expertise and to, I mean, really just inspire people.
Oh, I'm sure we inspired many today. And
Indeed.
and not just today, but for all time.
And for tomorrow.
Because tomorrow never dies. And
But we're not talking about them.
oh, I know. Well, this, I wish we were recording this in Russia so we could send this to our fans from Russia with love.
With love from Russia.
All right. Well, from us with love, this has been the Pod James Pod podcast, and we'll talk to you again in the future. Bye, Aaron.
Bye.